Hey everybody, I am Kris Keefer. This is the Rocky Mountain ATVMC.com top 5 tips. Today we are going to talk about top 5 tips for setting up your bike. All right guys, tip number 1, probably the most important, no matter if you get a new bike or you buy a used bike, or if you're riding your buddy's bike, it doesn't matter. Check your sag. There's plenty of sag tools out there. You can have a measuring tape, get your wife, get your kid. I get my 11-year-old kid to check my sag, so it can be done, okay? Check the sag. Sag's the most important thing for bike setup. If your sag is too high, you're gonna get a lot of pitching. You're gonna get a lot of oversteer. If your sag's too low, your front end's gonna push. It's not gonna be set up right. So first things first, check the recommended sag setting for your bike. That's a good baseline to start, but always in the morning or in the garage, make sure you have all your gear on when you do this, because you're gonna gain 5 to 10 pounds with everything on. Sit on your bike, have your buddies check your sag, or there's a slacker tool, does it, you can just put it on, you can do it yourself. All right, tip number 2. I talk about this a lot on my podcast. Are you a front end steering rider or a rear end steering rider? You got to figure that out. So, explanation, a front end steering rider would be, you're on the tank, you need a lot of bite when you corner, you need a lot of front end feeling. I'm that guy. I'm a front end steering rider. So, you have to set up your bike accordingly to that. If you see here, is I run my fork up 5 millimeters. A rear end steering rider would drop his fork down, maybe flush or maybe 2 millimeters, to get more steering out of the rear end with your throttle. So think Villapoto, rear end steering guy. Think if you watch Barsha, front end steering guy. Always on the front end, he needs a lot of bite. So setting up your bike accordingly will help you get into corners in and out faster. I run my fork up a little bit and sacrifice a little stability to get more front end bite. You'll get more stability if you run the rear end of the bike lower, rear end steering guy, and then you'll steer that around and straight line stability will get better. So know who you are, set up your bike accordingly, check your sag, check your fork height, check your sag. Ride attitude of the bike is very important, so figure it out. All right, tip number 3, I use this word a lot in the podcast and when I type some stuff, rider triangle. So the rider triangle is hand on the bars, butt on the seat, feet on the pegs, triangle, hence 3 points of contact on the dirt bike. This is very important to get you comfortable on the track. If you're a taller guy, you may want to go to a taller seat. If you notice the Yamaha has a dip in it, some taller guys don't like that feeling. They don't like that feeling of sitting in a bike. They would rather sit on top of a bike. I'm 6 foot tall. I'm on the cusp. I could use a little bit taller of a seat to get on top of it a little bit more, but I'm riding it stock how it is right now. Also, shorter guys want to go to a flatter, lower bar. That's important for cornering to get your cornering technique right. If you're a shorter guy, 5'8"-ish, and you have too tall of a bar, you're gonna be up here like you have ape hangers and you won't be able to corner well. So it's very important to get the proper rider triangle. Kawasaki's, you can adjust your foot pegs, back, forward, up, down. So you wanna know where at on the bike that you sit, get comfortable. A lot of bars come standard with 971 type bend bars. And that seems to be the normal standard for today's new dirt bikes. But Pro Taper, Renthal, Mika, ODI, there's so many bars out there. Go study the dimensions of each bar. And if you're a 5'8" guy and under, maybe 5'8", 5'9", get a lower, flatter bend. And you'll see that on dimensions. If you're taller than 5'9", go to a little bit taller of a bar, but keep the flat. You don't want a lot of sweep, you want to keep it flat. Also, bar mounts, very important. You don't want to go to a CR high bend, even if you're 6 foot tall. That's kind of old school thinking. You want to raise up your bar mounts and get a flatter bar so your cornering technique stays the same. So Again, rider triangle, very important for bike setup. Trust me on this, if you get it correct and you study it, you learn it, your lap times will drop. Okay guys, tip number 4, tire choice, tire compound. Very important. Out here, Southern California, we have, I wouldn't say great dirt. For those of you living on the back east, you're so lucky. I could go on and on about this, but you're very, very blessed of what kind of dirt you have back east. I envy you guys. You have good, tacky, ruddy dirt. Out here, we have soft dirt on top with hard pack underneath. So getting the correct tire choice for you is very important. For being able to sticking in corners, rear wheel traction, front end bite, that's all very important. What I've learned over my years of testing, a more expensive tire usually sticks better. That's 90% true. Right here on this Yamaha, we have a Dunlop 3S. That is more of a soft to intermediate terrain. We're at Comp Edge today. This is that kind of track where it's soft early in the morning and then it kind of goes away and turns hard pack. As the day goes on and turns hard pack, the tire is not as good. So maybe you want to go to an MX52, which is more of an intermediate tire, and that'll be good later in the day. So find out where you guys ride the most, figure out what type of tire you want, and that will get you the correct amount of traction. Now, a Dunlop maybe won't last you as long, so you got to think about that as well. A softer compound tire will not last as long as a medium or a hard terrain tire. Harder terrain tires will last longer but won't offer as much traction. So once again, find out what type of track you guys ride and go with the right tire compound choice. All right, tip number 5, suspension. Probably the most important piece on your bike. People say, I want a faster motor. You don't need it. You can't, I could not ride this bike as fast as it's made, okay? So what I need to do is set my suspension up correctly. Same goes for you guys out there. A brief explanation would be, if you guys, let's say I'm 170 pounds, I have stock springs in here. It's a little soft. So I go 2 stiffer on the low speed compression on the fork, and maybe I slow it down. So a good rule of thumb is every time you go up 2 stiffer on fork compression, you go 1 slower on rebound. That's a great tip for you guys out there. For KYB forks, 2 clicks in compression is a good baseline rule of thumb. Showa sets of suspension are very finicky, so you only want to go in 1 increments. But dialing your fork in for what type of riding you're doing, today it gets square edge and choppy, so maybe you want to open up your rebound to make your fork a little faster so it sticks to the ground better. But also I want more hold up, so I'll stiffen that up. Shock, a little bit more complex. It has high speed and low speed compression. So high speed is G'ing out in a face of a jump or transitions of jumps where you land. You want, if it's a little bit soft, you only want to go 1/8 to 1/4 turn increments, stiffer or softer. Out here today where there's bigger jumps and the transitions are shallow, I go a little bit stiffer. Low speed compression, straight line, square edge stuff. If you wanted to go stiffer, 1 increments is a good rule of thumb. Today, like I said, square edgy, so I try to open it up a little bit to kind of get the rear wheel to stick to the ground better. Rebound is tricky. Like on the fork where you go +2 and then go 1 stiffer, which will slow it down. The shock, I try to keep it pretty much baseline. When these guys develop this bike, the rebound is probably the most sensitive part on the machine. So when you guys do adjust rebound, if it's bucking you over the jump a little bit, maybe slow it down in 1 increments. But honestly, if you guys find a setting that you like, try to stick with that at every track. Not to say that you won't adjust here or there, +1 or +2, but if you find a good setting, basically that'll be good for every track that you ride at. So once again, suspension, very important piece on your bike. Always pay attention to it. Bleed your air out of your forks if you have spring forks. If you have air forks, always check the air in the morning before you start riding. Get that adjustment correct and take care of your machine. It'll take care of you. If you have any questions, you can always reach me at Kris@KeeferIncTesting.com, or if you guys want to get some more stuff, go to RockyMountainATVMC.com.